Oh my goodness. Yo, can you guys like gather in a little bit? Because I want to talk from here. So if you guys could like move to the center, that'd be awesome. How are you guys? Yeah? All right. Oh, okay. I love this. I love this. It's so cool. All right. So, man, we're talking about our series, Watch Your Mouth, right? And today we're talking about, in particular, about the power of words. And Jen did an amazing job last week. Yes. Did an amazing job. I wasn't here, but I watched her video. Okay. And she talked about guarding your heart, right? Watching your tone, a lot of things that your parents tell you when you're little, like you better watch your tone, right? But it's true, right? So we need to guard our heart, make sure we're watching our tone, and make sure that we think before we say. The power of words. And I think it's something so important that we really recognize how powerful our words can be, right? We come here, we hear people talking, preaching, right? We hear music, right? We hear lyrics, we hear people's speeches, right? And the power of words is just something amazing that God has created. But the power of words also can be very dangerous if we are not careful, right? Proverbs 18, and this is something, Proverbs is the book that Jen spoke about last week, which is a book of wisdom. Proverbs 18:21, it says, the tongue can bring death or life. Those who love to talk will reap the consequences, right? The Bible is very clear on how strong words are, right? They can encourage and they can destroy. They can either lift somebody up or really tear them down, right? And we see this in our culture. We see this daily as we see, we just see people argue all the time, right? We see people complaining. We see people not agreeing. We see people calling each other names. We see really people not looking to unify, but people looking to bring people down and destroy. Matthew 12, verses 36 to 37, it says, and I tell you this, you must give an account on Judgment Day for every idle word you speak. The words you say will either acquit you or they will condemn you. All right? So, man, the Bible is so clear on how dangerous and the way that we need to live and the way that we need to be careful with our words, because our words can do a lot of harm. So I kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit on how much power do words have. So let's ask my favorite, anybody here like use Siri or Google and all that great stuff all the time? All right, so I'm going to ask Google right here. All right, ready? Hey, Google. And it's not responding to me. How much power do words have?
According to Sokia Health, words have more power than they are given credit. Words have the power to create encouragement and sadness. Words have the power to start bitter battles that cause the destruction of relationships or the crumbling of families. Words can heal nations or humiliate leaders and followers alike.
Wow. See, all right. That was pretty bit of knowledge. You guys can clap for Google. He did a good job today. But it's amazing, and it's very true, right? Words can really crumble a relationship. Our friendships, everything is determined by the way we handle our words. The way marriages, relationships, friendships, everything, right? The way we speak to people, sometimes even the way, sometimes we gotta, again, be very careful on the things that we speak. We need to be thinking before we say them. Now, again, going back to how much power do words have? Well, guess what? We go back to Genesis, right? And God did nothing short of creating the world using words, right? he spoke it out. He didn't just say, he didn't get like a magic wand and just went, tink, tink. No, he actually spoke, right? And the first thing that he said was, let there be light. And light came to be. And then he said, let there be a space between the waters that separate the waters of the heaven and the waters of the earth. And the sky was created. Then he said, let the waters beneath the sky flow together into one place so dry ground may appear. And the lands and seas were created. Then God said, let the land sprout with vegetation. And trees and vegetations was created. Then he said, let light appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be a sign to mark the seasons, days, and years. And the sun, the moon, and the stars were created. Let the water swarm with fish and other life. Let the skies be filled with birds, and sea creatures and birds were created. Then he said, let the earth produce every sort of animal, each producing offspring of the same kinds, and animals of all kinds were created. And he saved the best for last, right? Where he said, let us make human beings. So God created human beings in his own image, right? This was all done with words. They were spoken. God spoke. His word contained in this book has the power, a lot of power. Everything that in this book is what was spoken. What did Jesus do? If we go back and we see what Jesus did, Jesus used words. He used words. He used his words to speak life. He used his words for healing. He used his words to show love. When Jesus was in the boat with his disciples and the storm came, what did he do? He didn't just say, yo, storm. He didn't do that. No, he rebuked it. He used words and he said, you know what? Storm, you need to stop. And guess what happened? The storm stopped. When Lazarus, his friend, died, right? He didn't just lay his hands on him. No. He said, Lazarus, get up. Get up. He used the power of words to be able to heal and bring Lazarus back to life. So what does that mean? What does that mean? What is our job in all this? What tools did Jesus give us? He gave us the power of words. And I'm going to say that a million times tonight because I want you guys to understand what the power of words is. The power of words has amazing power. He gave us the ability for us to speak life, but he also gave us the ability to speak death. Why? Because we have free will, right? Free will is our choice. He wanted us to have the choice to do right. So we need to use our words appropriately and really be conscious of what the power of words is. In Luke 4, verses 18, 19, it says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he anointed me to bring the good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim that captives will be released, that the blinds will see, that the oppressed will be set free, and that the time of the Lord's favor has come. That is our job. Our job is to bring his message, to bring the message that is written in this book. Because everything in this book, this is what will bring us out of negativeness. This is what's going to help us heal. This is what it's going to bring the good news. This is what's going to bring us hope. This is what's going to bring us hope, right? But you know what's funny is that the enemy knows this book. And in the Bible, there's a lot of stories on even the enemy trying to tempt Jesus, right? And what did he use to tempt Jesus? He used what's in here. He used what's in here. He knows this. The enemy understands the power of words, and he understands how to use them. The enemy uses words. He uses the power of words to bring death where there was light. And what better story, and this is a story that most Christians know, again, going back to creation, to Genesis 3. And we talk about the lovely serpent, right, that came to create death, right? Let's read Genesis 3. It says, the serpent was the shrewdest of all wild animals the Lord God had made. One day he asked the woman, did God really say you must not eat the fruit from any tree in the garden? She responds, of course we may eat fruit from the trees in the garden. The woman replied, it's only the fruit in the middle of the garden that we're not allowed to eat. God said, you must not eat or even touch it. If you do, you will die. You won't die, the serpent said, of course, right? Replied to the woman, God knows that your eyes will be open as soon as you eat it. And you will be like God, knowing both good and evil. The woman was convinced, of course, right? He's using the power of words to create evil. She saw that the tree was beautiful and the fruit looked delicious. Oh, tempting, right? And she wanted the wisdom it would give her. So she took some fruit and ate it. Then she gave some to her husband, who was with her, and he ate it too. At that moment, their eyes were open, and they suddenly felt shame at their nakedness, so they sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves. So again, a simple story, but it's a story that goes back on how the enemy uses the power of words for deception. That the enemy uses everything, sometimes even this book, but he'll twist the truth, like many people do, to use it against you, to use it against us. See, the enemy's words were not true in that story, right? But that didn't take away the power of those words. I'm going to say that again. The enemy's words were not true, but this didn't take the power away from those words. Because the moment we believe those words, they have power. Okay? Again, the enemy can tell you anything. He can be lying to you. He can be telling you how terrible you are. He can be telling you that you're the most worthless person in this world. But unless you believe it, that statement is not true. Do you guys understand that? It takes you to believe that statement for that to become true. See, only the words that God speaks to us are the ones we need to believe. The ones in this book, the ones that you hear after you read it, not an interpretation that could be twisted by somebody else. So I want you guys to understand that for you to understand this book and for you to understand what's in it, number one, you need to read it. Number two, you need to pray about it, right? Because God will speak to you through this book if you believe it. So what is it that you're believing today? And that's my question to every single one of you today. What are you believing today? What is the enemy trying to tell you? Are you believing the truth of our Father, or are you believing the lies of the enemy? What are you believing today? What are those negative things that you're hearing in your ear that maybe somebody's telling you today? Maybe they're telling you they want you to believe the things that are not true. They want you to bring you down. The enemy wants to bring you down. That's his only role in his existence. He wants to tell you that you're worthless. He wants you to believe that you're useless, that you're ugly, that you're fat, that you're a waste of space, that you're stupid, that you're hated, that you're a failure, that you're dumb, that you're better dead. And we see this happening in our world, guys. We see it in our youth. We see it with our teenagers, where people believe it, and they believe that their life is not worthy, and that they're better dead than alive. That is what we see. That is what the enemy does. Because he wants you to believe. The moment you believe those words, they can become true. They only have the power over you when you believe them. Man, we know we need to ignore a lot of those things. We know we need to disregard them. But it's not easy. It hurts. It hurts when people say those things to you. It hurts. Because no matter how much we know that we need to ignore them because we have God on our side, when somebody says those words, they're hurtful. They'll hurt you. But that's when we have to trust in believing His word. Right? Because God, for those things, God tells you that I'm beautiful inside and out. He says you're smart, you're intelligent, you're caring, you're funny, you're kind. I am loved. I am words. He speaks life where there's death. That is what God does. He's the light when the enemy only brings darkness. Now, I want to be able to speak to other people today, right? Because maybe the issue is that maybe you're the one that's speaking the enemy's words, right? Maybe you're the one that's speaking those words to somebody today, right? And maybe they're believing them. So maybe you're part. Maybe the enemy's utilizing you to be able to spread those negative words. Tell you, God didn't expect perfection. God knew that we're going to be tempted to say the wrong thing. And we say the wrong thing each and every day. But maybe you're here today. Maybe you're here and you got to start being accountable for the words that you're saying. Maybe you need to start being accountable for the gossip that you're spreading. Maybe you need to start being accountable to every single word that you're speaking that is not lifting somebody up. And I can guarantee you that pretty much anybody in this room needs to step up their accountability with words. Because we all say the wrong thing. Sometimes we're joking around, right? Sometimes we're joking around and we think it's funny, but sometimes we take the joke way too far. So I really want you guys to think about doing a word inventory, right? What words are you utilizing outside of church, right? What words are you speaking to the people around you? Are you creating relationships or are you splitting them up? Are you uniting people the way Jesus does, or are you pushing them away? Are you helping when people are being called those words, or maybe you're the one calling those words? Have you guys thought about that? Right? It's very easy. Sometimes it's, no, I don't mean it. That's not what they think. For them, it's hurtful. All I'm going to say is that the only way for us to be able to tame that tongue and for us to be able to get to the point where we're encouragers is through His Word. Because God is the only one that will allow us to be able to tame that tongue. Right? He's the only one that's going to be able to help us to be able to get to that point. Okay? But the day you do that word inventory, and the day you decide, you know what? I'm going to start speaking truth, God will bless you. God would bless you because He's going to take everything, all the negative stuff, and He's going to turn it. He can turn the most unperfect person into the most precious person. He can take disaster and turn it into something great. Right? He can take the most negative and the most thing that the enemy can tell you, and he can turn it into something amazing. I just need you guys to trust. I need you guys to have faith in His Word. In His Word. And the only way you're going to get to know His Word is not by me speaking up here and listening to me. It's by you guys looking into it. Because, again, you need to create your own interpretation. Because God will speak to you at different moments. All I can tell you is that He will never leave you. He's never going to forsake you. He's always going to encourage you. And I know that we're all facing these battles. So I really want to be able to take a moment. I'm actually going to get my leaders up here, and you guys could come up here, because I truly think that we need prayer, right? Because either if you're on the receiving end of those negative comments, or you're the one saying those comments, God has a word for you. And the only way for us to be able to discover that tonight is we need to pray. So I'm going to invite anyone, all of you, to come up and pray with the leader. And again, these leaders are going through the same things, and you guys, and I made that clear more than once, right? Where our leaders are fighting the same battles that you guys are fighting. This is not just you. This is a leader battle. This is a student battle. This is a life battle that we're fighting here in this place on earth. And the only time we're going to stop fighting this battle is the day we get to heaven and we don't have to fight this fight anymore.